Hello, I am Elham Shirazi. I have been in the telework field for over 30 years and have helped a lot of employers navigate towards a good direction for implementing teleworking. This session is geared towards supervisors, and so we would like to share with you what some of the best practices are. First of all, from a definition perspective, teleworking is extending the workplace beyond the traditional office. And as we all know, for last 7-8 months, it has been really based on working from home. And teleworking is very strongly at this point tied to supporting organizational resilience, during this pandemic, but of course, any other natural disaster and extreme weather events might also allow people to telework. It is a management prerogative, meaning a manager has to be on board before an employee can telework, and it is not an entitlement. Let's talk about what teleworking is not. First of all, it's not always full-time, although a lot of people have been teleworking full-time as a result of COVID-19. But a lot of data is coming back that says that employees would like to settle on a hybrid schedule, anything from, 1 day of teleworking to maybe 3 days. Of teleworking and then 2 days in the office. So there are different ways to implement the scheduling. Teleworking is not a benefit, meaning that it does not apply to all of your employees. And, it really is based on a selection process. Although work from home took away from our ability to do that this past year, but it is usually based on assessing the job, assessing the employee, looking at their productivity, etc., to make sure that they are going to be a successful teleworker. And in the past, it was never considered a substitute for dependent care. Again, people have gotten used to having kids around only because schools are not open. And we'll see, how that will, that will navigate in the future. It is not necessarily a longer workday because actually most people are more productive when they work at home. They don't have distractions, even with COVID, it's really good to try and separate the home life from the business life. And it's definitely not about seeing staff. As we all know, Zoom and Teams and a lot of other platforms have become very popular with teleworking. There are many reasons employers implement teleworking. So there is a business case, and tied, the reasons that define that return on investment are typically improved productivity. At a minimum, productivity should stay the same, providing flexibility for the workforce because that's what employees also require. It's great for recruitment and retention. I'm sure that in the near future, every employee who will probably interview for a job at Boulder County will actually, ask, is there a telework policy, and, is it available? It can also help morale. On a full-time basis, it may be a little bit harder, but if you have the possibility of teleworking or your employees have it, those are days they don't have to commute. So it allows them to be more relaxed and just to take care of work. For some employers, there are overhead savings as a result of teleworking. A lot of employers are seeing that they have a lot of office space just sitting as people are working from home, and they're reconsidering whether or not they go back, to the same infrastructure. Obviously, reducing commuting hours are really great for everyone, and commuting stress. And of course, it's great for the purposes of business continuity and for the organization to be resilient whenever disasters happen. So what is the manager's role in this environment? The manager's role is to create a work environment that maximizes the productivity of staff, given whatever limitations there are with the technology, and improving those. And it's based on existing trust in the workplace, established relationships and communication strategies, and also, in this time, it is a way to deal with some of the external elements that people are having. Usually teleworking means that the individual's alone at home and there aren't others that would be interrupting them. But as we know, some of that has shifted in the past few months. Now, the magical question with teleworking is, how do you measure productivity? Believe it or not, there's still managers out there, and it might be senior management and not necessarily yourselves, but the question, can an employee be productive when we don't see them? These are results from a Society for Human Resource Management, SHRM, and although it's dated, it's 2014, but the survey was distributed to supervisors to ask them what's the best way to measure productivity. And even back in 2014, as you can see, some of the most popular strategies for actually measuring productivity were responsiveness of staff, how quickly the employee responds to emails, returns phone calls, participates in meetings, huddles, Zoom, meetings, and then very closely followed by a line manager and supervisor establishing specific goals and parameters with the employee. And then, as some people said, on the honor system. What I do want to bring your attention to is that what is really low on the list is that the organization monitors employees via software. In fact, if a manager has to see when employees logged on and logged off, that's not a proper way to measure productivity. The proper way to do it is based around, is the job getting done? Is the quality good? Is the quantity right? Is there feedback? And by the way, is it meeting the timeframes that are established? So we're navigating away from measuring productivity by seeing people who are in front of us. Now, as a manager, it's really important that you set goals with your teleworkers. Help them identify, through a meeting or maybe even by giving them the responsibility of coming up with what they can do in a week when they're working remotely. And they should have objectives in there and deliverables. So it should be very clear between the employee and the manager what the employee is working on, maybe this week, and there should be time frames. And a lot of times employees just come up with this list and send it to their managers. I think after months of teleworking or working from home, people are much better equipped to be able to do this now. And what is very important to this process is to make sure that there is a status review by the end of the week or periodically. In fact, a lot of employees who are working from home tell me that they meet with their team, once a week to basically talk about what they're all doing. And they also meet with their supervisor once a week. Obviously, those meetings are best done through video. So you can also see your employees, see how they're doing. Do they look happy? Do they look sad? Because this can be stressful when it's done on a full-time basis. And then, you basically repeat this process for the next week. This way, everybody kind of is on the same page as to what is getting done. And as a manager, you're not worrying, about, okay, what is my employee doing now? Some organizations use a sample task schedule. This is a very simple one. These forms should not be onerous. So basically, the employee fills out what's the task they're going to work on, what will the deliverable be, how many hours they estimate it's going to take. And then at the end of the week, they write in what the accomplishment was. And in fact, if they couldn't, complete a task, they can just say not able to complete and give the reason. But this keeps everybody honest. You may not want to do it this way, but this is just, one sample form. Please do remember that although your employees are, working remotely, that every employee is different and different tasks may require different management strategies. So with some employees, you may have to provide a lot of direction, either on a new task, or it might be the employee who's not, is not at the level where, they know exactly what they have to do. So you will still be providing, direction, and you may even have to come up with what they are going to do that week. Hopefully, as employees mature in the workplace, you start coaching them. So, they are able to do a lot more in terms of, identifying what the job is and how they're going to get it accomplished. And, and some employees you can just advise. So, they probably know exactly what they're doing. And then there are employees that you can delegate to, or, jobs that can be delegated, which means that the employee has the right skill level, they've been there for a while, you trust them, they know exactly what they have to do. So please keep in mind, that you still will have to decide where you are in terms of your relationship with the employee. And it's important to, talk through how might teleworking change communications. Are impromptu communications okay? Is it okay to interrupt? Which, I think it's always okay to send a text if you need a quick response. And if, someone's in a meeting, they can say they're in a meeting. Or you may choose to call. People have forgotten that one of their most valuable tools is their phone. And not everything has to be a Zoom or a video meeting. Also, what kind of communication channels are to be used? What is it that Boulder County is comfortable with? And you probably want to make sure that everyone's using the same tools. You also want to weigh in terms of when the employees' work hours are. Can they flex? Can they start earlier and earlier? Can they start later and later? And what are the core hours that you expect them to be available? These should be happening in the workplace anyways. So no matter where people are working, I think these are really good rules to have. Now, as far as the teleworkers, you need to ask them for accessibility and availability. You need to know, what their phone numbers are, and that should be always updated. There should be ongoing communications within reason. Don't send emails, late at night to your employees, because a lot of people feel compelled to answer those. So, try to also, as a manager, manage your employees' hours so they're not working, constantly late. It's really a good practice to make sure everybody maintains their electronic calendar. So meetings are noted, whatever. I don't know what platform you're using, whether it's Outlook or another platform, should be clear when someone's available, when they're not available, when they're in a meeting, and calendars should be transparent. By the way, if an employee requests a personal non-available time, they should indicate that also on their schedule if you have okayed it. As far as communications, it's really important to make sure that your employees are participating in brainstorming. Unfortunately, with a lot of teleworking and working from home, the serendipity of the office place has gone away. However, I think we can interject some of that in our activities. And if you start brainstorming with a particular employee, we really suggest that you pause and think about maybe who else should be involved in this brainstorming and try to bring them in, either electronically or telephonically. FaceTime helps a lot when we're not together for a long time. And again, we really recommend that once a week you have that video meeting with your employee. As far as teamwork, please be clear as far as direction on attendance. If a meeting is mandatory. Make sure everybody knows that. By the way, if you want people to show their face, you need to require that, because otherwise, a lot of people will not do that. And, it really depends on what you're trying to accomplish with the meeting. But meetings, whether they're initiated by you or by your employees, should have a lead with a clear agenda so that, the meeting flows well. A lot of organizations have found that conducting a 15-minute team huddle is a great tool on some days of the week. So everyone just gets up and says, here's what I'm going to do today. Kind of gets everybody revved up for the day of work. Working alone for days without interaction can result in depression. And we'll navigate back towards that topic towards the end of this training, because it's really important to have employee engagements on work and non-work types of issues. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Please make sure your teleworkers are trained on, collaborative technology and all the tools. And if not, make sure they have access to tutorials. Some other tips for managers: do consider, virtual coffee breaks, a virtual water cooler, and also time just to say hi, hello. And as a manager, it's good. I mean, some meetings, the employees may want to just be together, but it's nice when the manager also attends a social meeting, which is being done remotely. It does show that you care and that you have empathy. We really need to build trust through this interaction. So if there are problems that come up, your employees do talk to you openly and involve you in developing solutions, because sometimes that's a lot easier to do in person as opposed to when you are remote. Some tips for managers are, please, do take the time to send some weekly messages to employees to improve morale and optimism. Kind of congratulate them on doing their work. Send something very positive so we can keep morale up. Make sure your employees have work and life balance. If you see them all the time coming to meetings with children around them, maybe you should talk with them and say, can you at least when we're meeting together, maybe find someone else who can take care of the kids. And we did talk about problem solving and how you need to, by the way, as problems come up, please don't be judgmental. Always go back to saying, what do you think is causing it? If somebody's performance isn't there, let the employee weigh in. Maybe they have bandwidth issues, but it's really good to come from a very neutral perspective. What should employers be tracking for making this an improved experience? I think tracking productivity is very critical. Please do track it. Again, not everybody has numerical metrics for their jobs. A lot of jobs are based on performance, are based on, as we mentioned before, meeting objectives. Do track technology problems if they are there, and solutions, because once you have the solution, it's a lot easier to just send some emails and share them with everybody as to how people worked around an issue. Obviously, you want to find out what are the pressure points of the program, but also you do want to know what are some of the advantages, and if the employees are happy that they're not commuting, they're happy with money that they're saving, obviously from not having to commute or pay for expensive lunches, and you want to know overall satisfaction with the teleworking program. And do try to develop a list of lessons learned. I think that will be very critical when you are able to work in a much more hybrid environment. So managers need to understand that there are adjustments on the employee part too. Your employees have the same issues and concerns. What's the impact on teamwork? How will I know my manager is working? They're concerned about isolation from coworkers and developing really good organizational skills, because when they work at home, they really have to be organized, have a to-do list, and decide when they do what, and they need to deal with distractions in the home environment to the degree possible. Ergonomics are important. Please do make sure that your employees understand that they should have a designated workspace at home. This space should have a table that's comfortable in height. You want to make sure that it provides a surface and it's not glass, because glass can break. You also want to make sure that they're reading at eye level. So if they are using a laptop, they have brought it up, or they have, another monitor where, they can see what's going on. And because otherwise they're crunched, and they should have an external mouse, they should have an external keyboard, and they should invest in a good chair. Not work in a dining room table chair, because that is not conducive to ergonomics. And, it's good to have a footrest. And, this is kind of a picture of a good desk and how it can be set up. Having headphones are important, because some of them cancel noise that's in the surrounding. I think we're going to go over some of this with your employees as well. So, but just be mindful. And even as managers, when you are working remotely, make sure you're doing it in a safe way. So very important to always encourage employees to maintain health and wellness. That's part of the resilience. So, here are some points that you probably are. I think it's good to maybe even send them something like this chart, but just to encourage them to have a regular schedule, to stay connected with family and friends. They should keep their immune system strong. They should still maintain, again, you can't tell them, shower every day, but they should maintain some hygiene. And that is part of wellness. Exercising, getting fresh air, being informed. Very important is to limit media consumption during the workday. So, or not even, just turn it off and concentrate on work. As I have mentioned before, it's good to set boundaries on the work schedule. When is it work, or when is it, life at home? And, make sure that employees are also enjoying the work that they're doing, and they don't feel, challenged in this environment. And then share tips, with everybody as to what is helping them, stay above board. Some ideas about boosting morale and collaboration during, difficult times when people are teleworking a lot, is to try to celebrate birthdays. Some managers send, an ice cream coupon to employees, just a small token of appreciation. A lot of organizations have started having electronic water cooler meetings. And, because again, we've lost the ability to just walk down the hall and, say hi, hello to our coworkers. So sometimes it's just good to say, okay, we're going to take a virtual break and, treat it like a water cooler. Icebreakers, having town halls where, you have all hands on deck. It could be a big Zoom. And allowing people to ask questions and answers. Those weekly huddles are critical. Having small group chats. And, a lot of people have found that in this environment, people are enjoying here's my pet. Let's share pets, kind of on a virtual hour. Or here's my family. So these are kind of check-ins that help people keep sane. Some are work related and some are not. So hopefully you're making good use of all of that. And what can managers do to support employees? Please show empathy and be available to your employees. Stay connected with meetings. It's a little harder when you're remote, and recognize the impact of isolation and loneliness for some of your staff that are alone. They live by themselves. And in fact, millennials are showing up in the data as suffering in this environment, probably because they don't have a family yet. And they were looking forward to work for at least some social life. And do encourage online training. This is a great time to make employees sharpen their tools. And if you have an employee assistance program, please make sure that you are, if you see that employees are feeling, lonely or isolated or sad, that there is a way for them to get some of that assistance. We hope that these tips are going to help you as you continue to telework and hopefully migrate to a more hybrid type of situation. Thank you for your attention.